mass transit, and restaurants, how to avoid new outbreaks, and how states can safely lift restrictions. New York takes its first steps, some parts of the hard-hit state opening up this morning while extending the lockdown for others. As tensions boil over in Michigan, protesters swarm the steps of the state capitol, blasting the governor's stay-at-home orders.
Dire warning.
We still do not have a standard, centralized, coordinated plan to take our nation through this response.
The nation's top vaccine expert saying the government's inaction put lives at risk and claiming early warning signs were missed, saying that 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
Game changer in the race for a vaccine? The promising new development right now in one of the major trials and the potential breakthrough that aims to kill the virus on surfaces.
Battle over the beaches. With just a week until Memorial Day, the new rules for summer as beaches from the Jersey Shore to the California coast are set to reopen. The requirements for masks, social distancing, and are these images from overseas the future of a day at the beach?
Last dance for the last dance. An exclusive sneak peek at the final episodes behind the scenes with the unstoppable Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan chasing his 6th NBA championship. One of the reporters who knows Jordan best joins us live.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
And thank you, class of 2020. This morning, we're honoring graduates across the country.
We are absolutely unstoppable.
From the packed car parades to the principal personally sending off all 600 of his students. And this morning, we're surprising a special group of seniors, 29 of them about to become EMTs. Their graduation speech live right here from the one and only Oscar winner, Matthew McConaughey. It's graduation day on GMA.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. Happy Friday, everybody. You don't need to adjust your television. Yes, there are actually 3 of us at the desk this morning.
It has been a while. It's been several weeks. We should assure all of you we've measured it all out. We are keeping the 6 feet distance, but it's good to be back.
Nice to have us all here. And yes, we are on our 3-person mark. We are on our marks. And we are also highlighting a very special class of seniors today, some of them gearing up to join the fight on the front lines of this pandemic. We cannot wait to celebrate them and hear from them directly.
They are an inspiring class. We want to help recognize all this year's graduates whose celebrations have been upended in this strange time. We all know that school won't be fully back to normal in the fall. Also, big questions are looming about whether American parents will send their kids back to school. A new ABC News Ipsos poll out this morning finds 69% of American parents aren't right now willing to send their kids back to school. Just 31% said they would. And this morning, there are more than 1.4 million coronavirus cases across the country. At least 48 states have lifted restrictions.
One of those states is hard-hit New York. Whit Johnson joins us here from Times Square with more on that and those new guidelines, Whit, from the CDC this morning. Good morning.
Michael, good morning to you. New York, the epicenter of the crisis in America, is slowly beginning to reopen, but some parts of the state might have to wait at least another month. This as the CDC releases new guidance, a basic checklist for how schools and businesses could get back to work.
The federal government releasing new guidelines Thursday on how to reopen restaurants, mass transit, and schools. The 6-page document from the CDC with protocols on how to avoid outbreaks amid the pandemic. Restaurants and bars urged to encourage social distancing by enhancing spacing of tables and stools, limiting party sizes, and provide flexible leave for employees. Schools and camps advised to stagger drop-offs and limit how often kids gather in groups. But decisions on when to open largely left to each state. On Thursday, President Trump touring a Pennsylvania medical supply business without a mask, taking a shot at the state's Democratic governor.
We have to get your governor of Pennsylvania to start opening up a little bit. You have areas of Pennsylvania that are barely affected and they want to keep them closed. Can't do that.
New York, the hardest hit state in the nation, is gingerly taking its first steps. Just 5 regions in the central and northern parts of the state qualify for phase 1, showing 14-day declines in hospitalizations and deaths. Businesses going back to work include construction, agriculture, and retail, limited to pickup and drop-off.
Phased reopening does not mean the problem has gone away.
But Governor Cuomo extending the stay-at-home order to June 13th for devastated areas near New York City that still do not meet Phase 1 criteria. In Florida, Universal Orlando's City Walk opening some shops and restaurants with restrictions. The Mall of America in Minnesota planning to open its doors June 1st. As states struggle with decisions to reopen, they are also struggling with money. The virus ravaging state budgets. The House set to vote on a new stimulus bill today, but the White House threatening to veto the legislation if it gets past the Senate. At least 45 states are already easing restrictions, but in 4 of those states, the number of new cases is on the rise. Tensions boiling over in Michigan. This scuffle breaking out on the steps of the state capitol. Protesters, some armed with guns, calling for an end to the governor's stay-at-home orders, still in place until May 28th.
And another hard-hit state, Louisiana, will enter the first phase of its reopening today. The governor of Rhode Island is also announcing plans to open summer camps by the end of June, but added that is a goal and subject to change. George.
A lot of kids hoping for that. We're going to move on now to the dramatic testimony on Capitol Hill, where whistleblower Richard Bright warned that 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history if more isn't done now to address this COVID crisis. It was a contentious confrontation. Mary Bruce is tracking the fallout. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, for the second time this week, a top health official is offering a grim outlook. Dr. Rick Bright ripped into the Trump administration's handling of this pandemic, saying lives were lost because of missteps. And he says there is no comprehensive plan now for testing or a vaccine. But President Trump again is dismissing the criticism and the warnings.
We don't have a single point of leadership right now for this response, and we don't have a master plan for this response.
A top vaccine expert, Dr. Rick Bright, was leading the government's search for a vaccine, but says he was forced out of his job after he raised concerns. Now he's speaking out as a whistleblower with a dire warning of what's to come.
If we fail to improve our response now, based on science, I fear the pandemic will get worse and be prolonged. Without better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
Bright says early warning signs were missed and that inaction by the government put lives at risk.
I believe Americans need to be told the truth. I believe that the best scientific guidance and advice was not being conveyed to the American public during that time.
He described the moment he realized the federal response was falling short when a manufacturer of N95 masks reached out to warn him of shortages.
And he said, we're in deep. The world is, and we need to act. And I pushed that forward to the highest levels I could in HHS and got no response.
Looking ahead, Bright tempered expectations about a vaccine.
12 to 18 months is an aggressive schedule, and I think it's going to take longer than that to do so.
He says distributing a vaccine to everyone who needs it will be another problem.
There's no one company that can produce enough for our country or for the world. It's going to be limited supplies.
On his way to Pennsylvania, the president dismissed Bright's warnings.
I don't know him. I never met him. I don't want to meet him, but I watched him, and he looks like an angry, disgruntled employee.
Now, as for when we may actually see a vaccine, Bright was blunt in saying that 12 to 18-month timeline assumes everything goes perfectly, and he says that never happens. He says it is likely that just developing a vaccine is going to take longer. George.
Okay, Mary. Meantime, we're also seeing some fallout for that Republican Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, who's being investigated by the FBI for stock trades.
Now, temporarily stepping aside from his powerful post as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee as this investigation intensifies. He is being looked into by federal agents for whether he violated insider trading laws when he sold off more than $1 million in stock as this pandemic was hitting. Burr denies any wrongdoing, though, and says he's just stepping aside to avoid being a distraction. George.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Amy?
Well, George, now to new developments in that race for a COVID-19 vaccine. Some promising results reported from Oxford University's trial, and there is potentially a breakthrough product to kill the virus on surfaces. Kaylee Hartung has the latest.
This morning, a promising new sign in the fight against COVID-19. Oxford University saying its vaccine appears to protect monkeys from the coronavirus. A handful of vaccines now in human trials. President Trump saying he's hopeful there will be one available in the U.S. by the end of the year. But until then, researchers are investigating new ways to stop the spread of infection.
You kill and you protect.
Dr. Charles Gerba testing a new, potentially game-changing product from Allied Bioscience, claiming after it's sprayed on a surface like this door, it should not only kill COVID-19, but also protect that surface from contamination for 90 days. The New York City transit system experimenting with 3 surface coatings like this.
I'm really interested mostly in schools, in buses, in subways. I think we'll have a lot more confidence we can reduce the spread of these viruses by surfaces with this type of technology.
Regulations make it difficult to use the virus that causes COVID-19 when testing these products. Other viruses act as substitutes. Regulators now reviewing surface coatings claiming to be COVID killers. Experts say the virus is known to spread person to person, cautioning there's still so much unknown about how it's transmitted on surfaces.
So long as we don't have a vaccine, the thought of riding a subway or going to a mall might seem scary to some. But preventative solutions like this could be key to helping protect us all as this country eases its way into reopening. We could see FDA approval as soon as today for one of these surface coatings, Amy.
All right, that is some good news. Kaylee Hartung, thank you. Dr. Jennifer Ashton is joining us now. And Dr. Ashton, we heard from Dr. Fauci saying that we cannot rush the timeline here in developing a vaccine for COVID-19. There are long-term safety issues at hand, correct?
Exactly. And short-term, long-term concerns all delineated in a really important article that came out this week in the journal Science. Dr. Fauci was one of the authors. And one of the things they're concerned about looking for is something called a vaccine-enhanced immune response. It has been seen in animals with other coronaviruses. That is why this timeline cannot be accelerated. Safety is a primary focus.
All right, and Jen, we know the CDC issued that warning about the inflammatory syndrome we're seeing in children. It's been issued. What does it say?
This is the list, Amy. Take a look at this. This is their 9th health alert this year, all on coronaviruses, basically for 21 years of age or older, fever requiring hospitalization, multiple organ systems involved, a recent diagnosis in the last 4 weeks of COVID, and no other cause found.
All right, important things to look for if you're a parent, certainly. All right, Dr. Jen Ashton, we appreciate it. Thank you. Michael.
All right, thank you, Amy. Now to the latest on the fatal shooting of that young unarmed black man, Ahmaud Arbery. For the first time, we're hearing a 911 call made by one of the men charged with murdering the 25-year-old. The call was made weeks before the shooting. Steve Ofnasami have the latest.
Investigators this morning are listening through this newly released 911 call made by one of the 2 men accused of murdering 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery.
What's your name and phone number, sir?
Travis McMichael.
McMichael and his father, Gregory, a former police officer, are accused of gunning down the young, unarmed black man during what police say the men called a citizen's arrest. The 911 call was made February 11th, nearly 2 weeks prior to the killing. Travis McMichael is heard telling police that he saw someone he felt looked suspicious inside a house under construction.
I just caught a guy running into a house being built 2 houses down from me. When I turned around, he took off running into the house.
Are you okay?
Yeah. It just startled me. When I turned around and saw him and backed up, he reached into his pocket and ran into the house. So I don't know if he's armed or not.
These security camera videos from inside that construction site do show a young black man repeatedly visiting and walking around. But in every recording, the person is seen walking away empty-handed, and the owner has reported no thefts. The attorneys for Travis McMichael are calling Arbery's death a tragedy and are begging the public to let the facts play out.
People who know better than to rush to judgment. People who know better than to engage in stereotyping are rushing to judgment, are stereotyping. And that saddens me.
But attorneys for the victim's family say that they wish their son was afforded the same privilege.
Because I'm representing a 25-year-old victim who was shot to death by people who rushed to judgment and stereotyped him, it comes off as disingenuous and almost offensive to this family.
State investigators have taken over this case after local prosecutors in the Brunswick, Georgia area were accused of looking the other way. Gregory McMichael, the father, isn't just a local police officer. He also, George, used to work for a local prosecutor. George.
A lot of potential conflicts there. Okay, Steve, thanks very much. We're going to take a look now at when and how professional sports are coming back. As leagues brainstorm safe ways to return, battle lines are emerging on the baseball field, with players resisting a plan from owners that would likely mean a pay cut for most of them. Ryan Smith is here with the story. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, George. Major League Baseball hopes to restart in July, but any plan must be approved by authorities in states where teams play, and health officials also have to sign off. And then there's players getting them to take those steep pay cuts. So batter up? Not just yet.
This morning, a battle brewing between Major League Baseball and some of its star players.
Strike three.
The league preparing to reveal a health and safety plan, which would feature a shorter season and no fans in attendance. Team owners seeking to make up for that lost revenue with reduced pay for players. Tampa Bay Rays star pitcher Blake Snell protesting the prospect of going back out on the mound for less than half his $7 million salary.
It just doesn't make sense for me to be on lockdown, not around my family, not around the people I love, and get paid way the hell less.
Other players supporting Snell, saying the risk to their safety is too great for additional pay cuts, after players have already agreed to a prorated salary. Overnight, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred says he hopes the league can strike a deal.
Personally, I have great confidence that we'll reach an agreement with the Players Association that it's safe to come back to work.
Meanwhile, NASCAR is going full speed ahead. This Sunday, kicking off 7 races in 11 days to help make up for lost time.
NASCAR running all these races in such a tight time period, it's really going to take its toll on the drivers. Probably the only thing worse than having a bad day on the racetrack is not getting the race at all.
And for many U.S. sports teams, all eyes will be on the German Soccer League, restarting their season tomorrow with enhanced safety precautions, including staggered team arrivals, strict social distancing, and less than 350 spectators allowed at games which usually draw in more than 40,000. 17-year-old American Gio Reyna, playing for German team Dortmund, saying the league could be the model for bringing sports back worldwide.
America is obviously getting better slowly and slowly, so I think all the leagues in America and around the world would kind of try to emulate there.
Now, as for the NFL, they're still slated to start their season on time in September. But if it's without fans, it may not seem like it from home. Fox announcer Joe Buck says their games might add in digital fans in the stands and pipe in crowd noise in empty stadiums to make it all look and feel and sound just like normal, George.
Or almost normal. Okay, Ryan, thanks very much. We are following a lot of other headlines this morning, including the new rules for how to stay on the beach this summer.
And the Americans stuck overseas due to travel restrictions. One of our GMA producers revealing how she finally managed to come home after being stuck. But first, let's go to Ginger. Hey, Ginger, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Parts of the Northeast reopening today, and today we have a chance of tornadoes and damaging wind, which I'll show you, but also flash flooding, which we saw overnight in Chicago. At least 4 inches of rain falling in parts of Chicago, and you see the water rescue happening there in the viaduct. Now, there were also tornadoes in Kansas, and now all of this action is moving east. So let me show you when. It starts after about 2 p.m. in western Pennsylvania and New York. It will extend Utica, Albany. All of them have to be on the lookout this afternoon and evening. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, though, the weekend forecast brought to you by Sprint.
At Sprint, we understand saving money for your family is now more important than ever. That's why we're offering our best unlimited deal. Switch and get 4 lines of unlimited for just $100 a month. That's right, 4 lines for $100. If that's not enough, to really amp this up, we're including 4 amazing iPhone 11s on us when you trade in iPhone 6Ss or newer in any condition. And now, Sprint customers enjoy expanded roaming access on the T-Mobile network. Shop from the comfort of your home at Sprint.com or come see us in our stores.
A very summery day. The AC is likely to be turning on, and hope that you hydrate and put on your sunblock if you're going to be spending some time outdoors today. 86 degrees, that's like a June-style kind of temperature for us. Lots of dry hours, maybe an isolated shower coming our way after 8 o'clock. We'll have some scattered showers, maybe a pop-up thunderstorm tomorrow between 2 and about 7 p.m. And then Sunday, some scattered showers, more clouds, lower temperatures in the 70s, and then unsettle for the mid part of next week.
I'm doing the same show every night. What if there's something more?
I know, I'm just an assistant.